And yeah, so back again with the Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. And let's get one started. Today we have Overlord, Exotic Overlord, because this, as another requested deck profile, we have from Pokemon Man, the Exotic Overlord, which is basically just Overlord combined with Exotic, what's his name? Dragnal armor, which is an interesting deck. I've chosen to run 2 manga cards in this. I believe one of them is a manga card anyways. I know Exotic's a manga card. I'm 95% sure the other card I've shoved in here is a manga card. So hopefully they're both manga cards, and then there was reason to shove them both in here. So let's go ahead and get this fun deck started because it has an interesting flavor to it. First up, we have our starter, Lizard Runner Undeux, 6k base, 10k shield, grade 0 with boost. Auto, when it's rolled upon, draw a card. Then if your opponent's Vanguard's a greater or greater, you get a quick show ticket. So, standard ability, you just, right on top of it, get a draw, get a quick show. Nothing too special about it. The draw is something you top deck off of, maybe, especially if you're me. And the quick show, which is a 5k shield, where you use it sometimes and use it for discard fodder. So, yeah, he's here because, well, there are no real other starters for this deck, and it's Overlord-wise, I just realized that Conroe is a thing. I completely forgot about Conroe, but Undeux is the starter anyway, so good on Undeux. Plus, he's like, no one used him anymore. He was in the first trial deck, and then everyone replaced him the second they got new starters. Poor Undeux, he never stood a chance. Well, guess what? I'm giving him that chance to stick up for himself. I don't know what he does on rear guard, mainly because he doesn't have a rear guard ability, but I believe in him if you can somehow get him on rear. I believe in his capabilities to kick all y'all's asses. Trigger-wise, we run 4 crit and Angerhorn Dragon, 8 draw and Toxophilite Dragon, and Wyvern Guard Barré. Barré is our draw PG. You know, it contains Sentinel. We have the 4 Sentinels in the deck, and auto guard when placed, discard a card from hand, and one of you cannot be hit till end of battle. Okay, you may be wondering, why is there 8 draws and 4 crits? Well, in this deck, you can restand your entire front row. If you know what I'm referencing, then you know what the other manga card is. You're going to figure it out anyways, but now you know. Anyways, you could restand your front row depending on what's in it, and also Exotic Dragnal nullifies triggers during his ability and can deal 1 or 2 damage. So, you don't really need crits, because if you're playing the game right, and if you really wanted to, you could just start shoving Force 2 to everyone, and then they kind of can't do anything because they're at 4 damage, and you don't really need the crits for crit pressure because you probably Force 2'd up every one of your rear guards. So, you know, the crits aren't as needed as much, while the draws are, because for your restands to go off, you gotta discard stuff, and you still need to draw into your pieces, especially because, like, this deck kind of focuses slightly on a specific grade 3 to work, and it's not just exotic. So the draws help you draw into the pieces that you need for it to work and allow you to be defensive while you're making your really big aggressive plays. So 4 of Barré, 4 of Genjo. Alright, Barry's also here because Crit Sentinel ain't gonna do shit. Like, yeah, you could have put the Crit Sentinel here and then run Carbuckle over this, but, like, you need the draw PG. You're gonna need that shield because that 30k shield is gonna do nothing with how aggressive you play with this deck. Genjo, you know, our 20k heal. I said it just 5 seconds ago with Barry. You need the shield a lot more than you need that fucking power. That 5k power, I say it all the time, it's not important, and it really isn't. Like, most of the time, you run those Heal Guardians, bet you're probably running them as guard fodder and nothing else. But, they interfere with G-assisting. Their guard skill may be useful, but that's only in early game, and in my opinion, you kind of want to take not a lot of damage early, but the first grade 3 turn is slightly the most impactful grade 3 turn, so you kind of want those damages to pile up, not too quickly, but not too slowly either. And, yeah, Genjo's just the thing to go. If you're the person who, for some reason, always loses, like, the game of luck where, depending on who wins, gets to go first, then yeah, run the Heal Guardians just to make sure that you don't die early if you really want to, but I still say the 20k shield is far more important than that Heal Guardian, because once you get to grade 3, the true uses will show. On to our main units, or normal units. 3 copies of Lavafoe Dragon, 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 boost, continuous Vanderrear during your turn. If you have more rear guards than your opponent, it gets plus 5k power, and auto Vanderrear when placed. Look at top 5 cards of your deck, roll to 1 grade 3 from among them, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. If you put a card, you gotta discard 1. Okay, there are reasons why this is here, and there are reasons why you can replace it. Here's the reason why it's here. One, and it's just a funny coincidence that I happen to run this man in every one of my decks of Kagero, which is the funny part because I don't run the other searchers and the other builds solely because those other searchers feel like archetypal cards. Like, I run Mini Belly and Chat Noir because I don't know, I just find it funny and weird. Also because Chat Noir is somewhat a helper Big Belly, so I just chose to run it because it kind of makes sense. But things like Black Shock Nakir, or whatever its name is, Black Call Nakir, I don't run her in any of my other builds that aren't Gavriel, solely because of like her archetyping wise. This one is not archetypal, and for some reason all my Kagero decks always have an extra grade 1 slot, so I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's just throw Lava Flow in there, because Lava Flow really does work. Lava Flow has always been my boy, and you know, that 5k power is really easy to hit with this deck, except that's not why you run it. You run it, surprisingly, because of that top 5 skill. That top 5 skill, like I said, you need specific rear guards to go off of, and if you know what I've been referring to as the manga card, you know you need those certain grade 3s of a certain typing, which I'll get to later, so you call those to the front row. And yes, they're grade 3s if that wasn't already clear enough. So Lava Flow helps you search out those, and you know, helps you search out your main grade 3 and your technical first ride, because I'm telling you right now, Exotic Dragnal armor, that's not your first ride. If you have to ride it first, be my guest, but you want to ride one of the 2 Overlords first. That's all I'm going to say. 3 copies of Lava Flow because he can help get your pieces that you need for rear, and also be a good rear guard while he's at it. 4 copies of Flame of Hope Aermo, because this deck has a counterblast problem. This right here needs to be here. 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost, continues rear during the battle that it boosted, it gets +3, so it's an 11k booster guarantee, which is really nice, and auto rear when your opponent's rear guard is retired during your turn, retire it, draw a card, countercharge 1. That is beautiful. It can be by attacks, it can be by effects. If it's retired, you draw and countercharge, which is what it needs. 11k booster, and it can get you the resources you need to kind of refill your cost. All around, I love this grade 1. There's nothing else I hate about it. 4 plus 2 of your abilities activate at the end of the battle, and this can go off when the unit's retired, which means this countercharge goes off first, and those other abilities cost counterblast. So you know, Aermo really works out with those 2. 4 copies. 4 copies of Dragon Knight Hishat. 8k base, 10k shield, grade 1 with boost. I have not seen this fucker in a hot while. I genuinely have not ran him since Dauntless. Auto rear when placed, counterboss 1, soul boss 1, draw a card. Choose one of your opponent's back row rear guards and murder it. And auto when it's rolled upon, look at top 5, rear up to 1 grade 3 from one of them, put it to hand and shuffle your deck. Okay, yes, we have 2 grade 3 searchers. 1, this only works when it's rolled upon, so which is why lava's here, because you do need lava for after that point. But also, you know, the counterboss 1, soul boss 1, soul blasting is... Soul Blast is the one problem this deck might have. So, like, be wise with this card. I mean, yeah, Counterblast is a problem too, but if Aermo's on board, that just gets refunded. But, be wise of how you use Heat Shot because of that. But, you know, he does get you a draw, and he can murder back or rear guard, which you can't touch otherwise. He's also really cool looking, so he's our main grade 1 ride target. 4 of, just be smart about when you use him. 3 of Berserk Dragon, our first grade 2, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Auto Van or rear, when placed, counterboss 1, soul boss 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and if it's on Van, draw a card. Okay, so many people use this ability even when there are no rear guards. I'm not saying you have to use this ability when they have rear guards, because you do as much as physically possible. So if it's just on Van when you use it, you draw a card even if they have no rear guards. But I just find it funny how no one uses its skill. Like, yeah, some people, when it's like the end of the game, even though they've had like the Berserk Dragon for so long now, they'll call it just to say fuck your rear guard even though you're dead anyways. I don't know why. I just find it funny how Berserk Dragon was only placed for Vanguard reasons alone. Then after that, no one calls him until the end of the game. But then also auto rear, when attacks, if you have more rear guards than your opponent, plus 3k for the battle. Okay. This is mainly here for the retire effect. You want to murder those rear guards, but also, you know, 3k swing, like I said, with Heat Shot, you just got to be careful with the timing of it. But even without the on-play skill, he's still 13k swinger, and with Aermo / Lava Flow, he's even stronger. So all around, nice grade 2, 3 of. 4 of this fucker, Torridcannon Dragon. 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Act Van or rear once per turn. Counterblast 1, put a normal unit from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck. Choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards, retire it, and if your hand has 4 or less cards, draw a card. Okay. Once more with Aermo, that cost me refunded. 2, he sends your normal units back to deck, aka your pieces that you might need for later. Even if you ain't gonna draw them, because the only way to shuffle them into the deck or shuffle them out of the deck is with Lava Flow over here, and if you're out of Lava Flow as well, then it's just stuck there. But Torridcannon, you know, he gets you your stuff back, makes it so that it's slightly harder to deck you out, which is always important, especially if you're playing me, because eventually, if you play me enough, you will get to the point where you're going to deck yourself out very quickly. But, you know, you get that rearguard kill, which is the least important part. The 4 less cards in hand is slightly the most important, because if you're being as aggro as I would, and you are like somewhat in the bad situation, you can get that draw to refill your hand. You might top deck off of it. Torrid all around is a nice grade 2 to have in this deck. 4 of our last grade 2, and the debatable main grade 2 ride target, because that goes back and forth with Berserk Dragon. But the good news about that is, you know, if you have one of them in your hand, you know, I mean, there's 7 copies in total, so like there's a high chance that you're going to see at least one of them, considering you have 11 grade 2, so 7 out of 11, that's really good. 7 11, haha, get it. But anyways, if you really want to, you can go with Berserk Dragon. Personally, I go with Break Breath, but Break Breath skill, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, auto rear at the end of the attack. If your opponent's rear guard was retired this turn, retire it, draw a card. Okay, really nice. It doesn't have to be retired by an effect for the opponent's rear guard, so you know, you can just attack into it and then kill this to draw a card. So a really nice ability to get you some extra draws. And auto, when it's rode upon, choose your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and if you did not retire, draw a card. That is extremely good, because most people, they don't call rear guards if they're at grade 2. They only call rear guards to go for a slight rush, and even then, normally these rear guards either bounce themselves back to hand or go to soul, or like go anywhere else so the opponent can't touch them. Break Breath forces them to call a rear guard that you can snipe, and if they don't call something, you draw. So either they're wasting a hand card or you're getting a plus. And while one draw may not seem like much, if you have seen any of my matches, you will know, well, I mean, yeah, only 2 of them you actually sell the hand for, but if you've seen any of them, you know one draw is enough to change the course of the entire game and even turn it into your favor. Break Breath, very scary grade 2, because he can lead into dangerous things even though it's just a small minuscule skill. 4 of, never underestimate the simple things. On to our grade 3s. We run 3 copies of the OG Dragonic Overlord. Bet y'all weren't expecting to see this boy. Grade 3 Twin Drive Force Gift, 13k base. Activate in a rear once per turn. Soul Blast 1, it gets plus 10 for the turn. 23k Springer, really easy to hit. Like I said earlier, this deck does have a Soul Blast problem somewhat, so like you gotta balance it out between the killing and the power. If you are on the next grade 3 that we're gonna discuss, go for this one's power, but if you're not, then it's fine, especially if you're trying to go for the kill turn. And Auto Van, once per turn, when it attacks, hits, counterbalance 1, discard 2, stand it, and it loses a drive for the turn. So that ability is almost never going to go up, because you don't want to ride this on Van. If you have to ride it on Van, it's completely fine, but I do not suggest riding it because it's not fucking worth it at all. So, you know, it's mainly here for that plus 10 on rear, and then you just swing with it, and then you'll restand it with the later card. But if you really have to do that on hit swing, I mean the on hit stand itself, it's still a good skill too. So 3 of, because he's nice to have, and you know, he's the only Overlord that, well, I mean besides the other one, that isn't restricted to having an Overlord in Soul. So 3 copies. Speaking of the other Overlord that doesn't require an Overlord to be in Soul for his skill, we have Dragonic Overlord, the TurnAbout, who was apparently a double rare. What? I thought this bitch was a promo. What the fuck? Wait, I didn't know he was a double rare. What the hell? I thought he was a promo. Well, okay, that changed my perspective on some things. Auto Van, once per turn, at the end of the battle of the attack, counterboss 1 and discard 2, so same cost as this boy. Stand all of your front row units with Overlord in their card name, and until end of turn, this unit loses a drive, and if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, all of your front row units with Overlord in their card name get plus 10. Okay, it may only have 1 skill, that's a really good skill. Same cost as this boy to activate, can restand your entire front row that has Overlord. So, you know, if you have 3 Overlords in the front row, including himself, you know, stand everything. And then if they're at grade 3 or greater, you get plus 10 to front row, so basically a Persona ride. So, yeah. I mean, it's 10k to all the Overlords, but if assuming that you're restanding 3, it's 10k to front row. Yeah. TurnAbout. Interesting grade 3. I thought he was a promo, but apparently he wasn't. 4 copies, because the man is fucking good and really does well with that like early rush thing where you kind of ride this guy, you go force 2 on the rear guard, you kind of just swing for game because they kind of can't stop. 5 attacks and 4 of them have force 2s on them. I mean 6 attacks and 4 of them have force 2s. And our last card and our main grade 3 to some extent. By the way, if it wasn't clear, you ride this first or this first and then you ride this fucker, but let's go over his skill. Exotic Dragnal Armor, 13k base, grade 3, Twin Drive, Force Gift, Auto Van, once per turn. Trigger effects do not activate for the damage checked by this effect. When it attacks, Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1. If your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, choose one of your opponent's vanguards, deal him a damage. If you Soul Blasted a card with Overlord in its card name, so 1 of 7, and your opponent's damage zone has 3 or less cards, they take 2 damage instead of 1. So pretty much the Purge to some extent, even though the Purge got draft checks and they only dealt 1 damage and they sent an Overlord to Soul. This deals them damage twice, and you don't get an Overlord to Soul, but A, that is a good effect to consider, because they take 2 damage, or 1 damage, one of the two. And it's a really nice effect to do. It is more of a finisher, because like you normally use this boy to build up your field and kind of swing really big, and then you go into this guy, or you can go into this guy, not make a big field, kind of play like how Bruce does on turn 3, where you only call things that don't matter and things you can replace. You swing, you do a little bit of pushing, and then next turn, you go big boy turnabout, go get your 2 Overlords, and then swing for game with 5 attacks, and 4 of them having double crit on them, and all of them having like, the last 3 having between 23 and 33 without triggers, and the other ones being just 13, 23, 23. So all around, it's a nice thing to consider. This deck can definitely go back and forth to either ride this boy first, then go into this boy, or ride this boy first and go into this one. I don't suggest staying on one of them for longer than the other, because then your plays will kind of get messed up, because this requires Overlords on rear, this requires an Overlord and Soul for the full effect to go off. So I say go back and forth with it. Either way, nice, grade 3 to half, 4 of. Next up, we have our gifts, Force 1 and Force 2, around 5 of each. They could both be put on the same circle as each other. I mean, not same circle as each other, but like same circle. So like you can put 2 Force 2s on the same circle, 2 Force 1s on the same circle. Difference is Force 1 can be stacked while Force 2 cannot. Force 1, it can be placed on a Vanguard or Rear Guard, as well as Force 2. And the unit on the Force 1 circle gets plus 10. And like I said earlier, they can be stacked and put on multiple circles at the same time. So if you have 2 on the same circle, plus 20. If you have 15, 150 somehow, but that would probably be Astropose that could do that. And Force 2 cannot be stacked, can also be placed on Van and Rear, and the unit on original critical becomes 2. So you can't like use card to say the original critical becomes 2, then use a Force 2, because that wouldn't it bring the crit to 3, it brings the crit to 2. And Force 2, you know, kind of works with this deck, because if you do it while you're on the turnabout, you can just shove it on your rear guards, and then the rear guards kind of swing for bigger pressure. And then when you go to Dragnal, you know, they're kind of fucked because they kind of couldn't take the earlier attacks, and you can selectively Soul Blast, making their life harder, and vice versa. We could go into Dragnal, push them, then use Turnabout next turn and push them for game. So all around, Force 2 I say is the better one, because this deck can get the power, and it doesn't really need the power anyways. But if you want to go for the power, go for the power. Fuck it. Who cares? Power though. I mean, I prefer crit. Like if they have a lot of guarding power. Sorry, I choked on myself. If you can just use a bunch of Force 1s, power your front row up, and then just keep swinging. Well, if you don't have a lot of guarding power, Force 2. We have our Quick Shield when one of you attacks gives plus 5k for the battle. Nothing too special. Mainly discard fodder for any of the Overlords or like things of Lava Flow. But otherwise, you know, it's a 5k shield that you can use. I personally wouldn't use it because you're just going to discard anyways. But hey, it's a 5k shield. And that was the deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It's very interesting that we get to finally run the OG Overlord again and still have purpose in him, but also, you know, kind of bring about the TurnAbout, who I somehow thought was a promo, but apparently he's a double rare, or triple rare, I can't read apparently. But, you know, having that front row with multi-attack and Kagero is always really unique, especially when you don't have to go spam stand triggers and premium. And having Dragnal come back with like the damaging effects are always really interesting, and I like how they kind of went about the aesthetics of it, even if it was only a promo ability. I just realized the time of recording this, it's Thursday, before, like probably the day or 2 days before it comes out. I know what they should do for their Kagero reverse unit. Bring back the rebirth! Fuck you, Dauntless Drive. I'm sorry about that, but I want the rebirth more than I want anything else right now. Bring us rebirth! Do it, Bushy! You listened to the Ezel thing. Bring back the rebirth! But, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow the Twitch, donate to the Patreon, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.